Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the second edition of Your Property Show. I'm Hasina Momtaz, and with me is Kam Ali. As it's our second show, and we're in a new slot actually today, so I thought I would do a little introduction about myself and tell you about Kam Bhai as well. As I said, my name is Hasina, and I'm a media and communications expert. I'm a former advisor to the Mayor of London. I was at City Hall for 9 years and advised both Ken Livingstone and Boris Johnson. And then I was Deputy Head of News for the Local Government Association. I've also advised the Chief Executive at Transport for London. Kam Bhai is a property investor. He's also the Managing Director of the District 1 Estates Group, which focuses on property investment and developments. And he's also a trained accountant and mortgage advisor. Now, in today's show, before I pass over to Kam Bhai, we're going to be talking about changes in the budget which come into effect in April and will impact on buy-to-let investors. So that's going to be the second half of our show. But for the first half, we're going to focus on auction properties and give you the ins and outs of buying properties at auction. I'll hand over to Kam Bhai.
Right, so we're discussing property auctions, how to go and buy properties at auctions. I mean, I find it sometimes you pick up some very good deals at property auctions. But if we take the first stage, what you should do before you go and buy at the property auction. Basically, I mean, the first tip I always give is to look, please go and inspect, view the property. So you get an idea, because catalogues describe it different from how estate agents describe a property. So it's very important you go and view the property. Secondly, go and speak to local agents, try and work out the value of the property, perhaps take an experienced person in that area that knows the values. So it's important to work out the value so you know how much to bid for when you're at the auction. So those are a couple of things, and also you can do some due diligence on the legal side of matters as well. Usually there's an information pack, legal pack, that you can get a legal person to have a look at to ensure that the titles are fine, there's no major issues. And when you do inspect the property, it's important to, view the property properly, take your time, because there may be hidden things that, you can't go for a viewing. After the hammer goes down, it's your property, so you can't go back and say, look, I don't want the property. So these are a few things that I do, always suggest to people. And obviously, you've got to have some sort of finances available to ready once if you are successful, you know how to finance this property. And obviously the other thing is, what are you going to do with this property once you bought it? Are you going to rent it? Is it for you to live in? What's your exit strategy? Will you be selling it on for a profit? Will you be renovating it? So you've got to know what you're doing with the property. It's no point just going and bidding thinking you get a big discount. You have to have a plan on what to do with this property. So those are the things. I prefer the quieter auctions. So what happens is, the smaller auctions, you get a bit more competition, better chance of being successful at your bids. So
where would those auctions be? Which ones are those? Because I know some of the big ones like Savills and Allsops.
Yeah, there's one called Andrew Robertson. They're quite a small auction, and there's not everybody. Savills is the big one, as you said, and Allsops, and there's Bernard Marcus, and there's a few other there's one called Auction House. So there's various auction houses. I'm talking mainly about London and South East. I'm sure there's so many in other parts of of England and Scotland as well. So there's. I mean, you can even pick up. I mean, just do a Google search and it'll give you a list of auctioneers for that area. Okay. Yeah. So
that might be a good point to start, particularly for a lot of our viewers. They're probably new to auction properties. So would you say start looking and engaging with the auction houses?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, go view the properties, attend the auction, and get a feel for it, and talk to other people. Maybe take an experienced person to an auction. Let me share a little story with you on my first auction experience. It's going back a while, possibly 17, 18 years ago. So those days there used to be a lot of underground strikes, tube strikes, I don't know if you recall. So on this particular auction day, there was a train strike. Right. So I had to park my car in somewhere in Aldgate, and most of the auctions take place in the city, some of the hotels. So I had to walk for about 3 miles in the city, and with my friend, I took my friend along. It was his first time as well. So when we got there wasn't that many people there. And there were a lot of sellers and some solicitors, and the auctioneers were there. So the auction got delayed for about half an hour. So I went for
because of this strike,
the strike. So even after half an hour, there wasn't that many people because of the fact that you know, this, how do you get to the city without, you know, this is it. So I went for these two little shops in Plaistow, E13. And I took £5,000 in cash. Those days you can pay cash. So I thought 10%, if I can get it for 50,000, brilliant. That's the maximum I could afford at the time. And luckily the bid went down at 50,000. So I became, as soon as the bid, you know, hammer goes down, you become the owner.
It's yours.
It's yours. So we paid the you know, the 10%, which is £5,000 at the time, and we're so happy we took a black taxi back to our car. So,
celebrating
our success. Yeah, so, but you know, you learn from these things. So the reason I say that story, it was I made that effort to go on that day despite the train strike, and mashallah, you know, these properties are worth a lot of money now.
So do you still have those
I
properties?
still have those properties.
Should we thank the RMT for that?
And you know,
getting you on the property business investment ladder.
This is it, and they generate good rents.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, what happens on the auction day, basically? I mean, that was a bit of an unusual time because, but normally you go, you can register yourself if you want to, and there's obviously they follow the lots, say 1 to 100 or whatever properties there are, and you know, each property, you have a bidding process, you have a reserve price, for instance. So you know, the vendor could say, look, if it sells below 100,000, I'm not selling, it has to go above 100,000. So they have a sort of basic reserve price. But you've got to be careful.
It's a bit like on eBay.
This is it.
They won't sell under that price, or is there some negotiation there?
You can negotiate after the auction, say, look, it didn't sell, could I make an offer? And sometimes you can pick it up quite cheaper than the actual auction.
That's a really useful thing to know, actually.
But there are also some pitfalls as well. You've got to be careful, you know. So the catalogues can sometimes describe properties in a completely different way to what a estate agent would describe. Misrepresent in some ways.
How do they, legally, how do they get away with that? Because you were telling me about that just before, and they can describe a 1-bedroom property as a 2-bedroom property. How? How is that possible?
I mean, I don't know what the technicalities are, but say a 1-bedroom apartment's got a living room and a bedroom. They're saying, well, it's 2 rooms. We're not saying 2 bedrooms. So we're saying there's 2 rooms. So I know of people who've gone and bought a 2-bedroom house without viewing the property, thinking it's a 4-bedroom because they're counting 2 living rooms and 2 bedrooms upstairs as for 4 rooms. 4-room doesn't necessarily mean 4-bedroom house. So it's important to check these things. You know, viewing the property will obviously help, and finding out more about the local area and stuff like that. Yeah.
So those are useful things to know. These are kind of the tricky things to look out for our viewers. Now, before we go on to the next question, I just want to remind our viewers that this is actually your show, and we need you to call in with questions. Cam is here to answer all your questions. Obviously for today's show we're focusing on auction properties, but if you've got any other questions or you want to know a bit more about our second topic, which is the stamp duty changes, do call through, and the number's up on your screen.
The other important thing I wanted to discuss, property finance. So, you know, where if you're purchasing a normal property, you can take your time and get the finance ready. With auctions, as soon as the hammer goes down, obviously you become the owner. That's your property. You have to insure it, and you have to. Normally you get about 28 days to get the finance and for completion to take place. Now, this is where I've come across where people have made major mistakes. If you cannot raise the funds, you lose the 10% deposit. So, for instance, you buy something for 300,000. 10% is 30. You could potentially lose that £30,000 if you're not able to complete on the property. So you must ensure that you have a contingency plan. Say, look, if you're not able to raise finance, you must have cash. Or what we do recently, we've been doing quite a lot of bridging, emergency finance, but that can be quite expensive.
Is that a bridging loan?
Bridging loan. So you get that for about 6 months. So during that 6 months, you can sort of get a standard buy-to-let mortgage or a resident, whatever mortgage you need to get on the property.
That's quite a specialist type of loan, isn't it?
It is.
And the interest rates can be very high.
Extremely high. I mean, yeah, it could range from 1% a month to 2% a month. So it's like a bit like credit card borrowing. So,
and are they usually, what's the maximum time you can get a bridging loan for? Is it up to about 6 months? Or?
no, it can range for 6 months. You can get it for a year, even longer than that, and you can renew it after that period as well. So, yeah, there are finances available. But then, if you're thinking you're getting a good discount at the auction, and then you're getting emergency finance, that could eat into your profit, and it might not all that hassle that you've gone through and the stress of getting this property has been wiped out by bridging finance.
So to recap, you would say, do your research, look thoroughly through the auction pack, and go and view the property and have your finance in place. Otherwise, you know, you could really get stuck with auction properties. Having said all of that, they're more popular than ever. I mean, I sometimes get the catalogues myself, and the properties just go. You know, there's things that I've bid on that I haven't been able to secure. Why are auction properties so popular, given that they do carry a certain amount of risk?
Particularly in the last couple of years, where it's been, if you're going for a property through the estate agent, there's so many people after the same property. At least with the auction, once the hammer goes down, you know you own this property.
So you can't, is it still called gazumping or something?
Yeah, there's a lot of gazumping.
You can't be gazumped.
This is it. This is why there's all these new changes that we'll discuss in a little bit later, has been brought in, so that gives other the first-time buyers a chance to actually go and buy property. Yeah, so I mean, there are sort of good, like everything, advantages of buying at the auction, and it's you're guaranteed to become the owner after that the auction bid. But I've seen where the auctioneer is actually doing off-the-wall bids, where there isn't actually any other bids, but they're raising the price by just saying, yes, I have a bid there, I have a bid there, but they're actually just playing with the other bidder to increase the price. So you've got to go and actually experience the auction and learn from it, and, you know, if there are opportunities, try and grab it.
Absolutely. So tell us what happens on the day of the auction then. We've got a few minutes till we go to the break. So if you cover off what happens in the auction, because you can have investors who are in the room and telephone bids as well. How does it all work? Yeah.
So I mean, basically, yeah, on the day you go to the auction, and there's tea, coffee facilities, there's some legal packs if you wanted to review the legal packs if you haven't done so. And then they go through lot 1 to whatever the auction is, the catalogue ends at, and you sit and you know, I always, if anybody's asking me, I say, look, don't bid first. Let other people bid, and towards the end, if you feel that, you know, you're still still hasn't reached the maximum that you'd pay, then start bidding. It's important. I mean, it's one of the tips.
What's
really.
What's the reason for that strategy?
Well,
is it just to get a sense of where things are going before you start sort of jumping in?
Yes, I mean, let other people jump in, and then, you know, you watch how things flow from there. And it's important to be careful, because sometimes the auctioneers, they take bids off the wall, just pretend there's another bidder where there isn't actually another bidder.
Oh, so they can do that at auctions as well?
It is all completely legal to do that, So, you know, it's important to take maybe an experienced person with you, particularly if it's your first time. I mean, I got lucky on my first time to get 2 properties, but that was because there was less people on the day, and you know, you had lucky break, if you like. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're about to go into a break. Do we have any callers at the moment? Okay. Well, let me remind our viewers that this is actually your show. So please do call through. I mean, auction properties are more popular than ever, and they're a fantastic way of investing your money if you want to get into the property market. So do call through with your questions. In the meantime, so should we go through the auction pack and what sort of things people can expect to find in the auction pack?
Yes, of course. Auction pack will have, say, searches for that property. If there's any last-minute changes in the conditions, if there'll be the legal title, who the solicitors are, special conditions, whether, you know, you have to pay certain charges, extra charges, what the terms are in terms of completion, how much the deposit is. So you get all the legal information there. And it's always good to actually go through that just before the auction, just in case there were some changes in between the time that you've checked it to the auction day. Because there are, I mean, if, say for instance, there's 100 lots on the day, there's always 8 or 10 properties that have some minor changes, whether it's possible that they've been sold beforehand. Or
we've got our first caller through. So, Assalamu alaikum. Well, you're through to the studio. What's your name and what's your question? Hello?
Hello, hello.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for calling through. You're our first caller. What's your question?
I just want to know, if I want to interested to buy auction properties, what should I do, and after I choose the property.
Yes, I mean, you have to, first of all, you have to order a catalogue or go online. All the catalogues are online as well. So you can phone up the auction house, say, please send me a catalogue. They'll send you a catalogue. If not, you can go online and just go through the properties that you might be interested, and then the catalogue will say what times the viewings are. So they always have a fixed viewing time, so you have to attend during that time to see the property. You can't make an appointment and say, look, I'd like to see this property on this day at this time. No, it's a slot. So during that slot, you have to go and inspect the property. You can also check out the competition, see how many people are viewing the property at the same time during that time. So first of all, inspector, look around the area, go to local agents, do your due diligence as in research on the property in that area, see what maximum you want to pay on the auction day. That you have to do. Now, the other things you should also do, maybe even seek some legal advice, and also, very importantly, a mortgage advisor to see if you're able to get mortgage on this property. Because, if to go to the auction, you must have some sort of contingency plans in terms of, you must have a finance ready or cash just in case, you're not able to raise money on it. So,
okay. The deposit money, what percentage should I pay?
Yes, deposit money is usually 10% on the auction day. So if you're lucky and the hammer goes down, during that time you have to pay 10%. So 10%, they don't take cash anymore, so it's got to be, if you take your checkbook with you, or you do online transfer, then yes, it's 10% plus some admin fee. So if the property is worth, you're buying something for 200,000, £20,000 you have to pay plus some charges.
Okay, and if I want to do the pay by cash, the whole property money pay by cash.
Yes, you can. So a lot of the people who go to auctions actually are cash buyers. You buy cash because, with a view that you'll get a discount on the day. So you can pay, I mean, if you're a cash buyer, you send the money to your solicitor after the, auction, and they will complete for you within 28 days.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. And, can you help me with the remortgage? If I want to do remortgage,
yes.
What should I do?
If you want to do a remortgage, I mean, you can get in touch with my company, or there's so many other mortgage brokers, advisors out there. They can assist you with the remortgage.
Okay, fantastic. Can I get your number?
Yeah, if you call the studio a bit later after the show, they'll pass it on.
Thank you very much to our first caller. Now then, we're going to go to a break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about a bit more about auction properties, but also about the new tax changes that are coming into effect in April. Do join us after the break.